Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. You know, in my earlier writings, I always referred to the mantids as a species of creature that I could not talk about. And now, because of various reasons, I'm able to talk about what the mantids are, or the guardian angels, depending upon your frame of mind, point of view, and knowledge, and how they interact with us. And this is very, very important information. It is information that connects you to your higher selves. All the time, we're constantly under this impression that we are ourselves, we are consciousness, that's all we are, and through the power of our own desires and our own consciousness, we can change our reality. That's not exactly true. We need help from our higher selves, and our higher selves we call the guardian angels. We need that aspect of ourselves to help us achieve our goals and desires. Therefore, our ability to communicate freely with our higher selves, to be able to communicate and understand how we communicate and how we interact with this higher selves, call them mantids, call them guardian angels, call them whatever the hell you want to call them, the way we interact with them is crucially important on our ability for free roaming futures. Critically important. So, I like to consider the role that the mantids play. I'm going to use the term mantid here. Mantid GP, this is general population mantid, and Mantid Prime, which is the mantid aspect that's in the heaven pocket universe. It's very, very crucial, it's very, very critical that you understand that as far as this cycling back and forth between the general population in the reality universe and the heaven universe, the cycling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth over time, it's a ping pong action that goes from the mantid GP, the general population mantid, to the Mantid Prime, which is the heaven mantid. And all that is you. Okay, that's the thing. You are a triad of three. You are a triad of three beings. Your consciousness, the general purpose mantid, and the heaven mantid. I'm going to review that again. You are consciousness plus Mantid GP plus Mantid Prime. Okay? Together they form a part of soul. Now you might get confused at this point in time, and this is extraneous information that you can pocket away and put in a drawer somewhere or put in your pocket and think about and muse about it some other time. I personally think that it tends to cloud everything up. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this aspect of it. Perhaps in the future I will. But the soul is partitioned into clusters of consciousness with Mantid assistance. So you're part of a soul that has other clusters. But for our consideration and learning purposes, we will only consider ourselves as the triad, and we will only consider ourselves a soul. So therefore, in simplification terms, not the actual terms, but for purposes of simplification, we consider the triad: your consciousness, your Mantid GP, and your Mantid Prime to be a unified unit known as soul. And soul, then, is part of a bigger you known as ISB. Okay? This idea that there's multiple clusters of triads coming from a soul is an important concept, and we'll get into that later on. But not everybody is segmented that way, and many consciousnesses are part of a single soul. Okay? So don't let that throw you, okay? With that in mind, let's consider then what you, not as consciousness, but what you as soul can do, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about right now. How you can use your Mantid GP, your Mantid Prime, and you as consciousness to be able to empower yourselves to adjust your current reality in this reality universe, hang out in the heaven universe at will without any bad consequences, and migrate to other universes freely. How can you do that? I want to talk a little bit about this relationship, because understanding this relationship within that triad will enable that to happen. The first thing you have to understand is that you and the triad must be of one unique goal, one unique purpose. The biggest impediment to that is you, your consciousness. If you think that reality is all there is, there's no such things as angels, spirits, deities, heavens, or anything, the best the Mantid GP can do is steer you on a path of adventure and learning. The best that the Mantid Prime can do is get you ready for a new template. But if you recognize the reality of Mantid GP and you recognize the reality of Mantid Prime, then you are able to work together with them. Now it gets a little bit tricky here, guys. It gets a little bit tricky. The Mantid Primes have limitations, the Mantid GP have limitations, and you have limitations. These are limitations set up by the entities that created these bubble universes. It's true. You can call them God if you want to, but somebody, something, some entity created heaven. Some entity created this reality universe. And then there's the main universe that it spawned off of. And they created the rules that we obey. The law of gravity that sticks you into your chair right now. The rules of behavior and the cycles of human turmoil. They created that. Likewise, they created the rules for the Mantid GPs and their behavior and their cycles, their wants, their desires, their needs, as well as the Mantid Primes. So all of us are fighting our own, I'm going to call them demons, but we're all fighting our own issues. So, dudes, it's not just that you have to come to the realization that you want to be able to go about these various pocket universes at will and explore and live a full life, but it's the Mantid GP that has to be in alignment, and they have to realize it, as well as the Mantid Prime also has to be aware of that. All three of you have to be of the same mind. That can be a little tricky, okay? That could be a little tricky because you might be aware, your consciousness, and your Mantid GP might be aware, but if your Mantid Prime is not up to snuff, then you might have a problem, right? The good news is that the consciousness being slower, more physically immobile, more sluggish as far as quanta goes, is the last one to come to realization. Meaning that both the GP Prime and the Mantid Prime and the Mantid GP, both of them came to this realization, probably before you did. Not always guaranteed. So you have to treat, unless you have a strong communication channel with your Mantid GP, and many in the audience does, but unless you have a strong communicative channel with the Mantid GP, you have to assume that the Mantid Prime might have other directives or other rules and laws that you have to accept. So you have to be very careful in how you do things. You don't want to get them in trouble. You don't want to cause them to break a rule, break a law, break a constraint. The mere fact that you are learning this right now means that you are on a template that was approved by Mantid Prime. Which means that it's very highly probable that the Mantid Prime is in alignment with the learning direction that you're going on. But being in tuned to a learning direction does not necessarily mean that they're in tuned with your objectives. Okay, so you've got to be very careful on that, right? And the Mantid GP, most certainly being so close and upfront with you and helping steering you on this adventuresome template, is also aware. So, with all this being said, right, it seems that for most of you in the audience, you are very, very close to achieving your next step goals. But I caution you, do not assume that the Mantid GP or the Mantid Prime are 100% in alignment. They may have other goals and other plans for you. Being consciousness, the only thing that you can control are your thoughts, and your thoughts thus also control your physical actions. That's all you're able to control. Using your thoughts and using your physical actions, I would strongly suggest you get in touch with the Mantid GP that is immediately part of you. Even though it seems like another creature, it appears to your mind as a foreign entity, as an angel, or as a extraterrestrial. It's actually you, or a part of you. You both have the same. Before you came to this reality universe, you both had the same everything. It's part of you. It's your higher part, you're the lower part. Communicate. Work on establishing a strong bond between you two. Higher removed from you, because you're on this universe, is the Mantid Prime. And it's very difficult for you, okay, it's not very difficult, it's impossible for you to communicate with the Mantid Prime. But it's not impossible for the Mantid GP to communicate to the Mantid Prime. They're transdimensional, remember? If you strengthen your relationship with your Mantid GP, you will also strengthen your relationship with your Mantid Prime. What the end goal is, you want to have all three of you in alignment for your goals. The key to doing this is affirmation campaigns specifically designed for unification of all parts of your body. To be of one mind, one desire, one goal, working in harmony. Not some kind of adversarial relationship, but a relationship where you're all working together for the common good. And that this memory and this relationship will never be forgotten, no matter what happens in the future. I dare say that for those of you who will manage to leave and upon translation, upon death, and try to go elsewhere, it'll be a frightening time, because there's going to be a period of time where your consciousness will and must merge with your Mantid part, and it's going to be a frightening time for you, because there are traps and snares set up. This fear. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, because you volunteered for the domain, right? And what's the first thing that happens when the domain goes on over and says, okay, we're going to modify your non-physical bodies? Fear comes up, and you're having these terrible, terrible fears of monsters and people snatching and all this kind of stuff. That kind of stuff's going to happen when you're reunified with your Mantid part. I'm warning you up ahead. Don't be like Matilda. This is just for a quick review. This, of course, is your is-be. It contains your soul. Your soul and the is-be. We can construct ourselves a soul, leaving some remnants of what we are elsewhere. And this soul can go anywhere it wants. For some reason, it's decided to be in another universe. So it's over in this universe. We call this universe the Heaven Pocket universe. And it is divided into the triad. All right? It's divided into the triad. The higher elements of the soul are going into these specialized bodies. The lower elements are your consciousness. Let's set this rest of the soul here aside. and it looks like this. You have a Mantid Prime, you have a Mantid GP, general population, GP, Mantid GP, Mantid Prime, and your consciousness. And over the years, you have been having this. And you say you don't want to do it anymore. Instead, you want to go over here. Or maybe even here. You don't know, but you want to do somewhere else. Maybe even here. Whatever it is, you don't want to do this back and forth again anymore. So here you are with your Mantid GP. You can communicate with your Mantid GP, and your Mantid GP then can thus communicate with the Mantid Prime. Communicate, improve communication between you two here will enable you two to go anywhere together. You can go anywhere with here, even if this Mantid Prime decides to stay. This Mantid Prime has no control over what happens here. What I'm going to say here is going to be radical, so listen up carefully. The ability for this Mantid GP to move to other universes is because it needs this piece of quanta. If it has this piece of quanta, it doesn't need anything. It can move anywhere. But this piece of quanta is with your consciousness. So as it stands, you two must be together. If everything is going to plan, we're going to create a new body, a soul prime, okay? A soul prime. And this soul prime will be the merging of your consciousness with the consciousness of the Mantid GP. Soul prime. It's going to be scary and unusual, but keep in mind, Mantid GP is you. You may not have been together ever since you entered these other universes, but this is what you want. Eventually, you're going to want to have the Mantid Prime join, and it may or may not. Eventually, this will happen. And then this will happen. And then this will happen. I think I said enough. I'm going to continue. I want this stuff to sink in on you. I really hope I sincerely hope that I'm providing a benefit to you. I hope that you're enjoying these videos and you're getting something out of them. That's my purpose. In fact, I really personally believe that writing videos and creating videos might be a better venue for me to communicate these ideas and concepts to you rather than just my writings. So we all grow, and I hope that you're growing with me, right? Okay, everybody, that's it for today. I hope it wasn't too deep and not too confusing for you. Okay? Until later, just remember, people, together we can all work together. we can all build a better life for all of us. If we contribute, go over with an open heart, smile and be helpful to others, dogs, cats, critters, just be a little bit nicer in today, our world will become nicer. And you know why I say that. Well, I believe in you. That's